You're watching KRON On, streaming now from KRON 4, the Bay Area's local news station.
Well, you could consider it Christmas of sorts for Apple fans. At this morning's California streaming event, the Silicon Valley company unveiled a long list of new products, including the new iPhone. To explain it all, things Apple, CNet's editor-at-large, Sherr, joins us. Hi, Ian. Let's start with the iPhone 13 because that seems to have what most people have been looking forward to. Except I'm really kind of interested in the Apple Watch. But what about you?
Okay. Well, you know, I'm actually really interested to see how people respond to the battery life of the iPhone 13. That's the thing that really gets my attention the most. So the iPhone 13 is not that dramatically different from the iPhone 12 that Apple announced last year. It's got a very similar design, right? And Apple did stuff like they upgraded the cameras and they made it faster. Those are all wonderful things, and it's good that they do that. But what really stuck out this year was that they made it so that the battery life lasts an extra hour and a half to 2 hours. And this is a big deal because the number one complaint that people have when they go and look at their phones and we survey people, right? We hear from them, all sorts of stuff. It's battery life all the time. And so that is the key that we really saw was, going to be something that's probably going to stand out to people. The other thing also is that Apple really pushed on different photo features. They made it so that the camera is able to take better photos in low light situations. They know that a lot of people love to take pictures of their kids and their family and all sorts of stuff like that. They even made it so that the video functions now have this cinematic focus shifting thing where it can kind of make it look like it's focused on the foreground and then slowly go to the background and the foreground again. And it's very artsy. They even brought in an Oscar award-winning director to talk about how awesome it is. And again, it speaks to how they're trying to make this thing fit into your life as much as they can.
What about as far as the whole aspect of like at the end in December, I always put together like calendars with the kids and the pictures and so forth for grandparents. And sometimes when you take those photos from your phone and you upload it into fill in the blank, the quality is not so good. So does this upgrade, does that help in that kind of thing?
It should. I mean, certainly part of what makes those photos not as nice is that sometimes they're grainy. That's because of the amount of light that they're able to actually, take into the phone and turn into a picture. The more light they can bring in, which means larger sensors, larger cameras, all that type of stuff, better computer programming to make it, understand the image better. All of those things play a part in making those images look better. So in theory, yes, it should be better. But that's part of what's interesting.
Right. I always, I go to a default to bring a, giant camera to the fill in the blank, but it really is not, it's not very user friendly if you're at the beach and don't have juggling kids and so forth. Anyway, I digress. So Apple's really been trying to, make that whole camera change. But what else about the iPads? I mean, the iPads finally are a little bit better.
Yeah, so one of the other things Apple announced was an iPad mini that's very revamped. And remember, this was at one point one of the most high-profile tablets they sold. Back when it first came out, gosh, almost 10 years ago. It's crazy how long it's been. Part of what the real compelling part about it was that it was this small tablet that you could, in a lot of cases, easily put in a bag or in your back pocket or in a purse, and it was easy to move around. Well, then the phablets came out, right? The phone tablet hybrids, the massive phones, and that were almost the size of an iPad mini. And people said, I don't need an iPad mini anymore. So now Apple is upgrading it with a lot of features that really make it kind of trying to turn it into something that it works for a lot of different people. So it's got, for example, the selfie camera for doing video conferencing. It's actually on the side in the middle. So it's designed to be in portrait instead of in landscape rather than portrait mode, which I think is interesting. They put speakers on it so you can watch movies that are much easier to hear and better quality speakers. They added 5G wireless, which is that next generation super fast wireless that's supposed to be more than another G, right? More reliable, all these types of stuff. So adding all that together, they think that that's enough to make it a compelling product. I think it says something that when they announced it, they showed doctors using it. They showed people who are working in, outside industrial jobs using it to be able to capture information to figure out, what's going on an oil pipeline or whatever. And that is something that's important to think about, is that this isn't just about you and me on our couch. There's actually a number of people who would benefit from it just being out in the field.
Are you sold?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I personally have seen some of the people, I used to have AT&T for my internet. And every once in a while back in San Francisco, the poor guy would have to come out and have to deal with the DSL going down. And he would bring this massive iPad with him with a big chunky case around it to make sure it wouldn't get broken. And it was unwieldy. And so the idea of having a smaller tablet that he could carry around, that makes a lot of sense. I also think that stuff that Apple's done to actually make these things just have better cameras, better battery life, all the stuff that it's worked on, I think could be compelling to make it interesting for a lot of people.
Okay, tell me the compelling argument when we talk about the Apple Watch. So I have, I guess now, like a dinosaur, because I've got the SE, which I like. I will complain about the battery, so I will be in that, tab, please make the batteries better, right? And we have a 4 at home. Like my child's got a 4, and it is the worst, the total worst thing. That thing dies all the time. So give me the argument about the watch. Is the 7 that much better?
Well, Apple thinks that actually the biggest selling point about it is going to be in its durability. One of the things that Apple's really been trying to push on these watches has been the idea of being able to use them in a lot of sporty situations. This is part of really the sale of it. And so one of the things they say is that it's impact resistant. So if you're going down a bike trail and you fall, you may break your collarbone, but at least your Apple Watch might be okay. And, the other thing that they talked about was also their Fitness Plus, right? The subscription service they have that came out right in the middle of pandemic, right? Perfect timing for all the people who are really trying to deal with, what do I do because I can't go to the gym? And what it does is that weekly workouts, right, of all sorts of different types tied to the Apple Watch, as well as the phone and all sorts of other things. And so during this event, Apple announced that they're going to make it so that, for example, you can now compete against your friends in these classes that you can take together. So there's a lot of stuff that they're doing there. The battery life, they say, is consistent with what they've done in the past, which is usually, roughly around a day. We've always found it's a little less than that, which is hugely annoying. I 100% agree with you. But the other thing is that Apple's also trying to push on all of these other features they add to it. They made the screen bigger, and that takes up energy. And that means the battery life, keeping it even where it was before, is tough. But they say they've done it.
Well, we will see about that. I do think that the 4 has got to go. Like it keeps you charged for like 2 hours or something like that. We do mountain bike and like surf with our Apple Watches, my daughter and I, but we haven't, knock on wood or plastic or whatever I am here on the set. So I am glad about that. Have you test drove any of these Apple Watches for their durability?
Not the new ones, but I will say that I have test driven the special stuff that they put on the iPhone 12 when it came to the screens. You may remember they announced that it had this new screen on it that wasn't really glass anymore. It's called ceramic shield. They apparently can't call it glass because of its chemical makeup anymore. And it is more durable. We actually tested it by dropping it over at CNet. We dropped the iPhone 12, so last year's iPhone, on the ground from hip height, from head height, from above that. We ran 80 grit sandpaper against it. We tossed it across the tile floor, and it lasted pretty well, which is a lot better than a lot of other phones.
Okay, I want an invite next time that you do all of this. It kind of reminds me of, when we were in school and we had to pack the egg with carton and so forth and drop it. It sounds like you were revisiting your youth on
We're doing the reverse of that right now.
Right. That or Consumer Reports trying to, trash it or something like that, like a vacuum or something. Anyway, always a pleasure, Ian. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.